The Grand Council had never called an emergency session at this hour. The massive crystalline chamber, usually filled with the measured debates of a thousand-year-old civilization, now buzzed with panic. Admiral's forearms trembled as he activated the holographic display, showing the devastation that had befallen mining station Omega-7. "Gone," he whispered, his voice carrying across the silent chamber. 3,000 of our people vaporized. The station had been one of their most secure facilities, nestled deep within the asteroid belt of the system. Protected by energy shields that could withstand the impact of small moons, defended by automated turrets that could track and destroy anything larger than a pebble moving at dangerous speeds. It should have been impossible to destroy. Yet the security footage told a different story. On the massive screen, council members watched as a single small craft approached the station. It looked primitive, almost laughably so compared to their sleek vessels. No energy shields, no visible weapon systems, just a gray metallic hull that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The craft moved with an odd, unpredictable pattern, never following a straight line, always shifting and weaving through space as if drunk. "What species does this belong to?" asked Counselor Ha, her tentacles writhing with anxiety. "According to our databases," Admiral replied, consulting his, "this vessel matches the design signatures of a species called humans. They're from a small planet called Earth, located in what they call the Milky Way galaxy. They only achieved faster-than-light travel about 50 years ago." Murmurs of confusion rippled through the council. 50 years was nothing. Most civilizations took to develop reliable interstellar travel, and even longer to pose any real threat to established powers like the Empire. "Impossible," declared High Counselor, his massive frame casting shadows across the chamber. "No species achieves this level of destructive capability so quickly. There must be some mistake." But the footage continued, and the mistake became increasingly clear. It wasn't a mistake at all. The human vessel approached mining station Omega-7 with what appeared to be casual indifference to the base's defenses. The automated turrets locked onto the craft and fired, sending streams of plasma energy that could melt through battleship armor. The human ship didn't dodge these attacks so much as it seemed to know where they would be before they were fired. It moved through the defensive grid like water flowing around stones. "How is this possible?" whispered Counselor. Our targeting systems are quantum-based. They calculate firing solutions faster than thought itself." Admiral had wondered the same thing. He had spent the last 6 hours analyzing the footage with his best tactical experts, and they had reached a conclusion that seemed impossible. The human pilot wasn't reacting to their weapons. The human was predicting them. The small craft reached the station's main docking bay and simply stopped. For several minutes, nothing happened. The station's security cameras showed no movement, no activity. Then, without warning, the station's shields flickered and died. "The shields," Admiral explained to the increasingly agitated council, "were sabotaged from the inside. Somehow this human bypassed our quantum encryption and took control of the station's systems." From outside the station, High Counselor's voice carried a note of disbelief. "That's what our technical analysis suggests. The human never left their craft, never physically breached the station's hull, yet they gained complete control of our systems in under 4 minutes." What happened next had haunted the Admiral's dreams. The mining station, which had been peacefully extracting rare minerals from the asteroid field, suddenly turned its industrial equipment inward. The massive plasma miners, designed to carve through solid rock, began cutting through the station's own structure. Emergency bulkheads sealed automatically, trapping the workers inside compartments that were then systematically vented to space. The human craft waited motionless as 3,000 died in the vacuum of space. Then, as suddenly as it had arrived, it vanished into the darkness between stars. "We must respond," declared Counselor Ha, her voice shaking with rage. "This cannot stand. No primitive species can attack the Empire and expect to survive." Agreements echoed throughout the chamber. They had built their empire over 1,000 years of careful expansion, absorbing or destroying dozens of younger civilizations. They had never encountered a species that could pose a real threat to their technological superiority. "What do we know about these humans?" High Counselor asked. Admiral activated another holographic display, this one showing a star map with Earth highlighted in red. "They come from a single planet in what they call the Sol system. Population approximately 8 billion. They achieved nuclear fusion about a century ago, faster than light travel 50 years ago, and have established colonies on perhaps 24 worlds. 24 worlds in 50 years? Counselor sounded impressed despite herself. That's unusually aggressive expansion. Indeed, most species take centuries to establish even a handful of colonies. Humans seem to reproduce and spread at an alarming rate. The Admiral changed the display to show human population growth charts. Their numbers have tripled in the last century alone. A breeding plague, muttered High Counselor, dangerous if left unchecked. The discussion was interrupted by a soft chime from the Admiral's communication device. His aide, Lieutenant, appeared as a small hologram. Admiral, forgive the interruption, but we've received another report. Admiral felt his stomach drop. Another attack. Yes, sir, cargo vessel Morning Star, carrying quantum processors to the Betelgeuse colonies. It was. Well, sir, it was destroyed in a manner similar to mining station Omega-7. The Council fell silent. 2 attacks meant this wasn't a random incident. The humans were deliberately targeting interests. Show us, High Counselor commanded. The new footage was even more disturbing than the first. The same primitive human craft approached the massive cargo vessel, which was nearly a kilometer long and protected by military-grade shields. The human ship was so small in comparison that it looked like an insect approaching a giant. But size meant nothing when the giant's own systems could be turned against it. The cargo vessel's shields went down first, then its weapon systems went offline. The massive ship found itself completely helpless as the human craft maneuvered to its cargo bay. Then, somehow, the cargo vessel's own power core was overloaded from the inside. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. 2 attacks in one day, Admiral said grimly. This human is making a statement. One human? Counselor Ha's tentacles writhed in confusion. You keep saying the human and this human. Are you telling us that a single individual is responsible for both attacks? The Admiral nodded slowly. Our analysis of the ship's energy signatures, movement patterns, and attack methodology suggests this is the same craft, piloted by the same individual. One human is single-handedly attacking the Empire. The implications hung heavy in the chamber. For a civilization that measured its military might in thousands of ships and millions of soldiers, the idea that a single enemy could pose a serious threat was almost incomprehensible. What could they possibly hope to achieve? Asked Counselor. Even if this human destroyed a dozen of our facilities, it would barely register as a minor inconvenience to the Empire. Perhaps, suggested High Counselor, this is a precursor to a larger attack, a reconnaissance mission testing our defenses before their main fleet arrives. Admiral had considered this possibility, but the evidence didn't support it. Our intelligence suggests that humans don't possess a fleet capable of threatening us. Their largest military vessels are perhaps a tenth the size of our smallest frigates. Their weapons technology is centuries behind ours. By all reasonable measures, they shouldn't be capable of what we've witnessed today. Then how? The question came from several council members simultaneously. The Admiral hesitated before answering. We believe the human is using our own technology against us. Somehow, they've developed the ability to hack our systems faster and more effectively than we thought possible. They're not overpowering our defenses, they're simply turning them off. Impossible, declared High Counselor. Our quantum encryption is unbreakable. We've used it for 3 centuries without a single breach. And yet, Admiral replied quietly, here we are. The chamber fell into an uneasy silence as the council members processed this information. The Empire had always relied on technological superiority to maintain its dominance. The idea that a primitive species had somehow centuries of development was deeply unsettling. What do you recommend, Admiral? High Counselor finally asked. Admiral had been dreading this question, but he had known it was coming. I recommend we assemble the 4th Fleet and eliminate the human threat before it can grow larger. The 4th Fleet? Counselor Ha sounded shocked. That's 500 ships, including 3 dreadnoughts. Surely you don't think such force is necessary against a single primitive craft. With respect, Counselor, I think we should stop underestimating this enemy. They've already demonstrated capabilities that should be impossible. I'd rather face them with overwhelming force than discover we've underestimated them again. High Counselor considered this for a long moment. The Fourth Fleet represented nearly 10% of the Empire's military strength. Deploying it against a single human seemed like massive overkill. On the other hand, two critical facilities had been destroyed in a single day by an enemy they didn't understand. Very well, the High Counselor decided. You have authorization to deploy the Fourth Fleet. Find this human and eliminate them. Make an example that will discourage any other primitive species from testing our resolve. Admiral bowed deeply. It will be done, High Counselor. As the council session ended and the members began filing out of the chamber, Admiral remained behind, staring at the tactical displays showing the locations of the human attacks. Something about this situation felt wrong, though he couldn't quite articulate what. The humans' attacks had been surgical, precise, almost elegant in their simplicity. There was no wasted motion, no unnecessary destruction beyond what was required to achieve their objective. This wasn't the behavior of a primitive savage striking out in anger. This was the work of someone who understood warfare at a level that made the Admiral deeply uncomfortable. His aide approached quietly. "Sir, the Fourth Fleet is awaiting your orders." "Tell them to prepare for immediate deployment," the Admiral replied. "And Lieutenant." "Yes, sir. I want our best analysts working on this around the clock. I want to know everything there is to know about humans, their technology, their culture, their weaknesses. If we're going to war against this species, I want to understand what we're facing." Lieutenant saluted and hurried away to carry out his orders. Admiral remained in the empty council chamber, studying the tactical displays and trying to shake the feeling that he was missing something important. Somewhere in the vast darkness of space, a lone human craft continued its seemingly impossible mission. The pilot, whoever they were, had just declared war on one of the galaxy's most powerful empires with nothing but a small ship and an unbreakable will. They were about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one you never see coming. In the depths of space, far from sensors, the human craft drifted silently among the asteroids of an unnamed system. Inside the cramped cockpit, Commander Sarah reviewed the tactical data scrolling across her displays. 2 successful strikes against infrastructure, 0 casualties on her side, and most importantly, no indication that her enemies understood what they were truly facing. Sarah had been fighting this war for 3 years now, ever since they had destroyed the human colony on New Geneva. 60,000 civilians, including her younger brother and his family, vaporized in what the aliens had called a routine planetary sterilization to prevent overcrowding in this sector. They didn't consider humans worthy of negotiation or even acknowledgement. To them, humanity was just another primitive infestation to be cleared away when convenient. They had made it clear that human expansion into their sphere of influence would not be tolerated. What they didn't know was that Sarah wasn't just any human pilot. She was a ghost. The neural interface program had been humanity's most closely guarded secret, developed in hidden laboratories far from Earth's major population centers. Only 12 humans had ever successfully bonded with the quantum processing arrays that allowed direct mental interface with computer systems. Of those 12, only Sarah had survived the full integration process. The technology allowed her to think at the speed of quantum computation, to process information faster than any biological brain should be capable of. More importantly, it let her interface directly with any computer system she encountered, regardless of how alien its architecture might be. She appeared to be impossibly good at hacking their systems. The truth was simpler and more terrifying. She wasn't hacking them at all. She was simply thinking faster than their computers could respond. Sarah's displays lit up with incoming data as her ship's passive sensors detected a massive energy signature moving through hyperspace. She smiled grimly as the information processed through her enhanced consciousness. 500 ships, that were taking her seriously now. She began plotting her next move, her enhanced mind running through thousands of possible scenarios in the space of seconds. The enemy was bringing their full might to bear against a single human in a craft that was barely the size of their smallest fighter. They still didn't understand what they were facing. But they would learn. Admiral stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Infinite Wrath, watching as the Fourth Fleet assembled in the space around Prime. 500 ships of various classes, from nimble frigates to massive battlecruisers, all focused on a single mission: find and destroy one human. The sheer scale of the operation should have filled him with confidence. The Fourth Fleet represented enough firepower to sterilize entire worlds, to reduce whole civilizations to cosmic dust. Against any reasonable enemy, it would be overwhelming overkill. But Admiral had learned not to make assumptions about what was reasonable when it came to humans. "Admiral," called out his tactical officer, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Intelligence Division." "Put it through." The holographic image of Director materialized on the bridge, her normally composed features tight with concern. "Admiral, we've completed our analysis of the human attacks, and I'm afraid the situation is more complex than we initially believed." "Explain." "The human vessel isn't simply hacking our systems, Admiral. Our analysis suggests they're interfacing with them directly, at a speed that should be physically impossible for any biological entity. The response times we're seeing are consistent with direct quantum processing, not organic thought patterns." Admiral felt a chill run down his spine. "Are you suggesting this human has somehow augmented themselves?" "That's our working theory. Somehow, this individual has merged their consciousness with quantum computing systems, allowing them to process information and make decisions at superhuman speeds." The implications were staggering. If humans had developed the technology to enhance their cognitive abilities to this degree, it would explain how a single individual could outmatch systems that had been perfected over centuries. "Is there any indication that other humans possess this capability?" the Admiral asked. "Unknown, sir. But given how recently humans achieved interstellar travel, we believe this technology must be extremely new and probably limited to a very small number of individuals." "Or just one," the Admiral muttered. "Possibly, sir. But Admiral, there's something else. We've been monitoring human communications, and we've detected no mention of these attacks in their official channels. Whatever this individual is doing, they appear to be acting independently of human government or military authority." Admiral processed this information carefully. A rogue human with superhuman cognitive abilities, operating without official sanction, had declared a private war against the Empire. It was almost laughably absurd, except for the fact that this individual had already killed 3,000. "Director, I want a complete intelligence package on human society and psychology. If we're dealing with a lone operator, I need to understand what drives them." "Already prepared, Admiral, transmitting now." As the data flowed into the ship systems, Admiral reviewed the information with growing unease. Human society, according to the intelligence reports, was characterized by remarkable diversity and an almost pathological tendency toward individualism. Unlike most civilized species, humans frequently acted against the interests of their larger groups when motivated by personal beliefs or emotions. More troubling was their apparent capacity for what the reports termed asymmetric warfare. Throughout their history, humans had repeatedly demonstrated an ability to overcome technologically superior enemies through unconventional tactics and sheer stubborn persistence. "Admiral," interrupted his communications officer, "we're receiving reports of another attack." The Admiral's heart sank. "Where?" "Fuel Depot Gamma 12 in the Vega system. Same pattern as the previous attacks. The facility's defenses were turned against itself, resulting in total destruction." Admiral stared at the tactical display as the location appeared in red. Fuel Depot Gamma 12 was over 50 light-years from the previous attack sites, in a completely different direction. For the human to have reached it so quickly would require faster-than-light travel capabilities far exceeding anything in their known technology. "How long ago did this attack occur?" "Approximately 2 hours, sir." "Impossible," muttered the tactical officer. "Our intelligence indicates human FTL technology has a maximum speed of perhaps 5 times light speed. Even their fastest ships couldn't cover that distance in such a short time." But Admiral was beginning to understand that human capabilities couldn't be measured by their apparent technology level. Somehow, this individual was moving through space faster than should be possible, striking targets with perfect precision, and disappearing before any response could be organized. "Status report on fleet deployment," he ordered. "All ships are ready, Admiral. We can begin the hunt immediately." "Begin the hunt," Admiral repeated softly. The phrase itself revealed the problem with their approach. 500 ships were designed to fight other fleets, to engage in massive battles between equals. They weren't designed to hunt a single small craft that could apparently appear anywhere in the galaxy without warning. "Admiral," called his sensor officer, "I'm detecting an anomalous reading in the asteroid field, bearing 45 Mark 12. "Anomalous how?" "Unknown energy signature, very faint. It doesn't match any known technology." Admiral felt his pulse quicken. "Could it be our target?" "Possible, sir. The signature is consistent with the energy readings detected at the previous attack sites." All ships red alert, prepare for combat. Helm set intercept course for the anomalous reading. The massive fleet began moving toward the asteroid field, weapons charging and shields raising. Admiral watched the tactical display as 500 ships converged on a single point in space, bringing enough firepower to destroy entire worlds. But as they approached the coordinates, the sensor readings vanished. "Target lost, Admiral. No sign of any craft in the area." "Impossible. Scan the entire field, maximum resolution." The fleet's combined sensor arrays swept through the asteroid field with unprecedented thoroughness, mapping every rock larger than a baseball. They found mining equipment, automated beacons, and the usual debris of civilized space travel. They found no human craft. "Admiral," the sensor officer called out, uncertainty clear in his voice, "I'm detecting another energy signature. Same type as before, but in a completely different location." The new reading was on the opposite side of the system, near the outer planets. As the fleet began moving toward this new contact, it too vanished, only to reappear somewhere else entirely. "We're being played," Admiral realized with growing anger. "This human is leading us around like children." The pattern continued for the next several hours. The mysterious energy signature would appear just long enough for the fleet to detect it, then vanish before they could reach its location. Each time, it appeared somewhere else entirely, always just out of reach. The Admiral's frustration mounted as he realized they were being systematically humiliated. 500 ships, the pride of the military, were being led in circles by a single enemy they couldn't even properly locate. "Sir," the communications officer interrupted, "we're receiving a transmission." "From where?" "Unknown origin, sir. The signal is being broadcast on all frequencies simultaneously." "Put it through." The voice that filled the bridge was distinctly human, younger than Admiral had expected, female and speaking imperfectly accented. "This is Commander Sarah of the Earth Defense Corps. I am addressing Admiral, Commanding Officer of the Fourth Fleet." The Admiral's surprise was complete. Not only was this human addressing him by name, but they somehow knew the designation of his fleet and his personal identity. Their intelligence capabilities were far more sophisticated than anyone had realized. "I am listening," the Admiral replied, activating the fleet's transmission systems. "Admiral, you're hunting me with 500 ships. I'm honored by the attention, but I want to make something clear. Your fleet is in more danger than I am." "Threats are meaningless when you lack the power to carry them out," Admiral responded, though he felt less confident than his words suggested. "Admiral, in the last 4 hours, I've been inside your flagship's computer system 17 times. I've mapped your fleet's communication protocols, weapon systems, shield frequencies, and tactical deployment patterns. I know which ships have mechanical issues, which crews are running on inadequate sleep, and which captains have personal problems affecting their performance." The Admiral felt ice form in his veins. If this was true, then his entire fleet was compromised. "You're bluffing," he said, though his voice lacked conviction. "Captain Al of the cruiser Silver Dawn is worried about his daughter's upcoming bonding ceremony and has been distracted during briefings. Commander of the frigate Star Chaser has been self-medicating for chronic pain and is operating at reduced cognitive capacity. Shall I continue?" Admiral gestured frantically to his communications officer, who shook his head. The information was accurate. Both officers had submitted personal requests related to exactly the issues the human had mentioned. "What do you want?" the Admiral asked quietly. "I want you to understand something, Admiral. Your people destroyed New Geneva. 60,000 human civilians, including children, vaporized because you decided that system was getting too crowded. You didn't negotiate. You didn't warn us. You just erased an entire colony from existence." Standard protocol for controlling population expansion in restricted sectors, the Admiral replied automatically, though the words felt hollow even as he spoke them. Standard protocol. The human's voice carried a note of cold amusement. Do you know what our standard protocol is, Admiral, when someone murders 60,000 of our people? Before Admiral could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the bridge. His tactical officer's voice was tight with panic. Admiral, we're detecting massive system failures throughout the fleet. What kind of failures? Everything, sir. Navigation, weapons, shields, life support. Our entire computer network is shutting down. On the tactical display, Admiral watched in horror as the icons representing his 500 ships began flashing red, one by one. Within minutes, the entire Fourth Fleet was dead in space, completely helpless. Our standard protocol, Commander's voice continued calmly, is very simple. We don't just fight back. We make sure it never happens again. You're going to destroy my fleet? Admiral asked, surprised to find that his voice was steady despite his terror. Admiral, I could destroy your fleet right now with a simple command. I could overload every reactor simultaneously, or vent all your life support, or simply shut down your artificial gravity and watch you drift helplessly until you starve. But I'm not going to do that. Why? Because unlike your people, Admiral, we don't kill unless we have to. Your fleet is disabled but intact. Your crews are alive and unharmed. But I want you to remember this moment, Admiral. Remember how helpless you felt when someone with superior technology decided your fate without consulting you. The communication channel fell silent, leaving Admiral alone with his thoughts and his disabled fleet. Around him, his officers worked frantically to restore their systems, but their efforts seemed futile. Every time they managed to bring one system online, it would immediately shut down again. Hours passed before their computers finally came back online, and when they did, they found a message waiting for them. It was brief and to the point. Next time you decide to commit genocide, remember that someone is always watching, and sometimes that someone has the power to hold you accountable. Commander. Admiral read the message several times before ordering his fleet to return to base. As they began their long journey home, he found himself thinking about the human colony that had been destroyed. Until today, it had been just another entry in his mission logs, a minor administrative action in the vast bureaucracy of imperial expansion. Now he understood that those 60,000 lives had meant something to someone, and that someone had the power to make the entire empire pay for their casual cruelty. In the depths of space, Commander Sarah watched the fleet limp away from the battlefield. Her enhanced consciousness had allowed her to monitor every aspect of their retreat, from their private communications to their tactical discussions. They were confused, humiliated, and most importantly, they were afraid. Fear, Sarah had learned, was often more effective than violence. But her mission was far from over. They had learned that humans could fight back, but they hadn't yet learned to respect human life. That would require a different kind of lesson. Sarah began plotting her next move, her quantum-enhanced mind already calculating probabilities and outcomes dozens of moves ahead. They wanted to hunt her with overwhelming force. They still thought in terms of traditional warfare, of massive fleets and decisive battles. They were about to learn that the most dangerous enemy wasn't always the one with the biggest guns. Sometimes it was the one they never saw coming until it was too late. The ghost of New Geneva continued her lonely war, and the galaxy would never be the same. 6 months had passed since the humiliation of the Fourth Fleet, and the Empire was fracturing. High Counselor stood before the emergency session of the Grand Council, his massive frame somehow diminished by the weight of recent events. The holographic displays around the chamber showed a galaxy in chaos, trade routes disrupted, military installations abandoned, entire sectors declaring independence from imperial rule. All because of one human. The reports continue to come in, announced to the assembled council members. 3 more industrial complexes destroyed last week. The Arcturus Mining Collective has severed all ties with the Empire, claiming they can no longer guarantee the safety of personnel. The Outer Rim governors are refusing to pay taxes, saying we can't protect them from this ghost. Admiral, looking far older than his years, activated a tactical display showing the latest attacks. Commander has escalated her campaign. She's no longer targeting just our military assets. Supply depots, communication relays, administrative centers. She's systematically dismantling the infrastructure that holds our empire together. Can we not track this human? Demanded Counselor Ha, her tentacles writhing with frustration. She must have some pattern, some weakness we can exploit. We've tried everything, the Admiral replied wearily. Quantum sensors, gravitational wave detectors, even psychic tracking. She appears where she wants to appear, strikes with surgical precision, and vanishes before we can respond. Our best analysts believe she's somehow mastered our own transportation technology better than we have. The truth was even more disturbing than Admiral was willing to admit publicly. Their investigations had revealed that Commander wasn't just using their technology, she was improving it. Each attack showed increasingly sophisticated techniques, as if she were learning and adapting faster than their countermeasures could evolve. What of our intelligence operations? Asked High Counselor. Have we learned anything about human society that might help us understand this individual's motivations? Director stepped forward, her usually composed demeanor showing cracks of strain. Our deep intelligence probes into human society have revealed some disturbing patterns. High Counselor. Humans have a concept they call precedent, the idea that how you handle one situation determines how all similar situations will be handled in the future. Meaning that Commander isn't just seeking revenge for New Geneva, sir. She's establishing a precedent. She's demonstrating to the entire galaxy that the Empire can be hurt, that our technological superiority doesn't make us invincible. The implications hung heavy in the chamber. If other species began to believe that the Empire could be successfully challenged, the carefully maintained balance of power that had kept the galaxy stable for centuries could collapse overnight. Sir, Director continued, there's something else. Our analysis of human psychology suggests that Commander isn't acting purely from revenge. Humans have a concept called justice, the idea that wrongdoing must be balanced by appropriate consequences. What kind of consequences? Asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer. Unknown, sir. But based on human behavioral patterns, we believe Commander won't stop until she feels that justice has been served for the New Geneva massacre. Admiral activated another display, this one showing economic data. The financial cost of her campaign is already exceeding the economic value of 50 human colonies. She's cost us more in 6 months than her entire species is worth by our standard calculations. Then perhaps, suggested Counselor hesitantly, we should consider negotiation. The chamber fell silent. The idea of negotiating with a single individual, particularly one from such a primitive species, was almost unthinkable for the proud empire. Absolutely not, declared. We do not negotiate with terrorists. The Empire's reputation depends on our unwavering strength. With respect, High Counselor, Admiral said carefully, our reputation is already damaged. Half the galaxy thinks we're being humiliated by a single human in a primitive craft. The other half is wondering why we can't protect our own territory. Before could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the council chamber. Emergency lighting bathed the room in red as security officers rushed to their stations. What's happening? Demanded. Sir, came the voice of the facility's security chief through the communication system, we're detecting unauthorized access to our primary computer systems. Someone is bypassing our security protocols. The holographic displays around the chamber flickered and went dark. Then, slowly, they came back online, but instead of showing tactical information and star charts, they displayed a single image, the human commander. She looked younger than Admiral had imagined, perhaps in her early 30s by human standards. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical style, and her eyes held an intelligence that seemed to cut through the holographic projection and into his soul. Members of the Grand Council, she said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. I'm Commander Sarah, and I've been waiting for an opportunity to address you directly. High Counselor found his voice first. This is a secure facility. How are you accessing our systems? The same way I've been accessing all your systems for the past 6 months, replied calmly. Your security is impressive by galactic standards, but not particularly challenging for someone who thinks at quantum speeds. What do you want? Admiral asked. I want you to understand something that you seem to have missed, Admiral. This war isn't between your empire and humanity. It's between your empire and me personally. The human government has no idea what I've been doing. They didn't authorize my actions, they don't support my methods, and they certainly don't share my capabilities. This revelation sent murmurs of confusion through the council chamber. If was acting independently, it meant the human government couldn't control her even if they wanted to. But Admiral continued, "That's about to change." "What do you mean?" demanded. "For the past 6 months, I've been conducting what humans call a proof of concept. I've been demonstrating that your empire can be hurt, that your technology can be compromised, that your military can be defeated. But more importantly, I've been learning." The display changed, showing complex technical schematics that Admiral recognized as military technology, but modified in ways he'd never seen before. "I've been reverse engineering your technology, understanding your systems, mapping your infrastructure. And now I'm ready to share that knowledge." "With whom?" Director asked, though she already feared the answer. "With humanity, of course, and with every other species you've oppressed, enslaved, or destroyed over the centuries. Did you think the galaxy had forgotten the purge, the enslavement of the colonies, the forced relocation of them?" The council members exchanged nervous glances. Each of those actions had been considered necessary for imperial security and expansion, but they had also created enemies throughout the galaxy. "You see," continued, "I've done more than just attack your facilities. I've been building a network. Every species that has a grudge against the Empire, every world that dreams of independence, every individual who has lost family to your standard protocols, I've been in contact with all of them." Admiral felt the blood drain from his face. "You're organizing a rebellion." "I'm organizing justice, Admiral, and thanks to the technology I've acquired from your systems, I'm giving them the tools to achieve it." The display showed a star map with hundreds of worlds highlighted in red, former territories, oppressed colonies, and independent systems that had reason to fear imperial expansion. "This network represents over 2 billion individuals across 300 star systems," explained. "And as of yesterday, they all have access to the quantum processing technology that makes me so effective." "Impossible," sputtered. "That technology is beyond their capabilities." "It was beyond mine too, initially. But I learned, adapted, and improved. That's what humans do, High Counselor. We take whatever tools are available and make them better." Admiral stared at the star map with growing horror. If it really shared her capabilities with hundreds of other individuals across the galaxy, then the Empire was facing not one enhanced enemy, but potentially thousands. "What are your demands?" he asked quietly. "My demands are simple, Admiral. First, the Empire will formally apologize for the destruction of New Geneva and pay reparations to the families of the victims. Second, you will grant independence to any world or system that requests it. Third, you will submit to oversight by a galactic council including representatives from all species, not just your own." "Those terms are completely unacceptable," declared. "The Empire does not bow to the demands of terrorists." "High Counselor," replied, and for the first time her voice carried a note of genuine anger, "I am not a terrorist. Terrorists attack civilians to create fear. I have targeted only military and industrial assets, and I have gone out of my way to minimize casualties. But if you force me to escalate this conflict, that restraint may no longer be possible." "Are you threatening us?" Admiral asked. "I'm warning you, Admiral. You have 48 hours to consider my terms. If you refuse, then this network I've built will begin active operations against interests throughout the galaxy. But they won't be bound by the same ethical constraints that have guided my actions." The display flickered and changed one final time, showing a message in multiple languages from dozens of different species. "The age of dominance is ending. The galaxy belongs to all its children, not just the strongest. Choose wisely." Then the display went dark, and the council chamber was left in stunned silence. 48 hours, Admiral said slowly. "She's giving us 48 hours to surrender." "We cannot accept those terms," insisted. "The Empire has never surrendered to anyone." "High Counselor," Director said quietly, "our analysis suggests that Commander has been honest about her capabilities. If she really has created a network of enhanced individuals throughout the galaxy, we may not have a choice." "There's always a choice," replied firmly. "We can fight." "With what?" Admiral asked. She's demonstrated that our technology is ineffective against her. Our fleets are vulnerable to her attacks. Our infrastructure can be turned against us at will. Even if we could defeat her personally, we'd still be facing hundreds of others with the same abilities. The debate continued for hours, but Admiral found himself thinking about something else entirely. He kept remembering words about justice and precedent, about the human concept that wrongdoing must be balanced by appropriate consequences. The Empire had built its power on the assumption that might made right, that superior technology justified any action. But what if they were wrong? What if the galaxy operated by different rules than they had believed? As the 48-hour deadline approached, Admiral found himself drafting two very different messages. One was a mobilization order for the Empire's remaining military assets, preparing for a galactic war that could destroy entire civilizations. The other was a formal apology to the people of New Geneva and an acceptance of Commander's terms. He had never imagined that the fate of the galaxy would come down to a choice between pride and survival. But as he watched the countdown timer tick towards zero, he realized that sometimes the hardest battles were won not by fighting, but by knowing when to stop. In the vast darkness of space, Commander Sarah waited for their answer. Her quantum-enhanced consciousness was already calculating the probability matrices for both possible futures, one where the galaxy learned to resolve its conflicts through justice rather than force, and another where the stars themselves would burn in the fires of rebellion. Either way, the age of unchallenged empire was ending. The ghost of New Geneva had made sure of that. But perhaps, if they were wise enough to choose justice over pride, the galaxy might find peace instead of war. The countdown reached zero, and the future began.